Oh, thank you, Leslie. So beautiful. Good morning and welcome to Vashon Island Unitarian Universalists, or VIEW. My name is Alex Clark and I will be your service leader for today. If you're visiting, please participate as you feel comfortable. You're invited to stay and introduce yourself after or right now, if you feel so inclined. We're a mostly lay-led community, strengthened and enriched by weaving together our volunteer contributions from our members and our friends. Our community is supported and guided by our quarter-time minister, Reverend Victoria Poling. As we begin our service, I invite you to settle in to this space and release everything that led up to you arriving here right now. As you feel comfortable, please put your feet on the ground. Feel the earth below your feet. Close your eyes if that's comfortable for you and take a nice breath through your nose, all the way down, a wide, expansive breath, and a slow, deep exhale. Do this a couple times. Feeling the air and the energy just flow right through you. Bring your attention into this moment of communal reflection and sharing. And may open your eyes as you feel comfortable. We acknowledge that we're on the traditional homelands of the Squamish Coast Salish Native people. The Puyallup and Muckleshoot people continue to steward these lands today. We commit here to uplifting the voices, the Native voices and experiences and histories, as well as promoting social justice actions, and with the indigenous people of this land, together and beyond. As we settle in, we also acknowledge that our congregation is committed to individual freedom of belief, welcomes diversity, and seeks to promote a sense of community that fosters religion, which enriches the spirit. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived here, you belong here. I'd like to invite Jim Packwood to light our chalice, or I will light the chalice as you share the chalice lighting reading.
Thank you.
Okay?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jim. Today's chalice lighting words, Building the Justice We Long For by Reverend Scott Taylor, inspired by and with the use of words by John Shar. And I'm proud to add my voice to these words. They're beautiful and they really resonate with me. May this flame cast its light towards better days, reminding us that the future is not simply a place we are going, but a place we are creating. The path of new possibilities will not be found, but made. The justice we long for does not sit at the end of that inevitable arc. It lies in the bending. That is ours to do. A new world is waiting to be built, friends. May our time together light the way.
Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Reverend Carrie Kopnick. Rev Carrie Kopnick is a lover of good books and poetry, a gardener of native plants, and tends a hardy little charm of hummingbirds in her yard during the cold winters. She also serves as a community minister and the interim communications director at the Chaplaincy Institute, an interfaith seminary and community that is online and in Berkeley. Carrie's happy to be back with the good folks of View and hopes that the orcas are swimming by on her ferry ride home. Welcome, Reverend Carrie. Would you like to read the opening prayer, please?
I thought I needed to look around to make sure this person isn't with us today, because wouldn't that be cool? Today's opening words are by the Reverend Rebecca Parker, who is a past president of the UU Seminary Star King School for the Ministry, and who once served at the Vashon Island Methodist Church, and I think is back living here part-time. She writes, "In the midst of a world marked by tragedy and unnecessary destruction, and who, with faith, stand and lead in freedom with grace and power. There must be those who speak honestly and do not avoid seeing what must be seen of sorrow and outrage, or tenderness and wonder. There must be those whose grief troubles the water while their voices sing and speak refreshed words. There must be those whose exuberance rises with lovely energy that articulates earth's joys. There must be those who are restless for respectful and loving companionship among human beings, whose presence invites people to be themselves without fear. There must be those who gather with the congregation of remembrance and compassion, who draw water from old wells and walk the simple path of love for neighbor. And there must be communities of people who seek to do justice, who seek to love kindness, and who walk humbly with God." Your interpretation. "Who call on the strength of soul force to heal, transform, and bless life. There must be religious witness." I'm going to invite us to settle once again, to release again what is behind you. What has already happened is done. Release what is before you, the things that are planned or on the way. And even let's release what is now. Let's just be together. Our energy holds us. The earth holds us. And the sky holds us. It is so good to be together. Thank you.
So beautiful. We invite you to stand as you feel comfortable, and we will sing our first hymn, which is Spirit of Life. And those of you who would like to do the ASL with it, you're invited to do that too. If you want to come up and help guide, you're welcome to come up. And we did not hand out the hymnals, sorry, because we thought everybody knew the words, but not very nice of us, not very inclusive of us, is it? It's number 123 for those people who need to, it's new for them. I noticed people were kind of very.
I have to say, I grew up in a fellowship, a small Unitarian Universalist fellowship in Bloomington, Minnesota, that looked very much like this. We set up the chairs and we sang, and if we made a little boo-boo, we sang it again. And it was just a place that was love alive. And I could tell you the stories, but I learned to be a Unitarian Universalist painting the bathroom and making lunches for the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee fundraisers. And so I feel like I'm home. And we've got a serious topic today that we'll try to have some fun with. As I planned this service, I was thinking a lot about how we transform the world order, how we pull together to build that beloved community, how we shift our communities and our systems to center justice and compassion. It can be energizing to stand on the protest line and march behind the imam and the rabbi and the priest and the pastor as they're leading an interfaith march. And it even feels like we have a little power to bring change. But it's not always easy to do these things. And it's not always also easy to keep protesting and marching and holding vigil or dismantling our own old beliefs that we may truly want to release. Change can be really, really hard, and transformation is even more difficult. Activist and musical artist Justin Michael Williams teaches that change is one thing. It can be undone. We can change laws and hearts and minds, but they can change back. Transformation is what is needed. We all need the systems that are oppressive and unjust to transform, because transformation can't be undone. Electricity, for example, the automobile, the internet. These things didn't just change the way our society worked, they transformed it. For all of us, whether we're protesting or marching or holding vigil or watching the news or just getting by or surviving oppression or working on our own liberation or working to understand our privilege or even just feel the energy move around us in our culture, for all of us, it can be exhausting to enact transformation. I believe, though, that centering justice and compassion within ourselves is the key, the cornerstone to bringing justice and compassion for all. I think it's an inside job. Psychologist Isra Nazir writes in her workbook, The Well Guide, quote, "When we involve ourselves in social justice work, we open ourselves up to the trauma of many other people who are experiencing injustices. This is why social justice work, activism, and raising awareness about social causes is very challenging and has a significant psychological impact. And this is why it's vital to take care of yourself while you engage in social justice work, because it helps sustain your energy over a long time. Caring for yourself is an intentional and radical choice when fighting for social justice. Remember," she says, "social justice work is a marathon and not a sprint." Close quote. I wish I was like those YouTubers, because then I would have a snappy top 10 ways to center justice and compassion within our very beings. But I'm not a YouTuber, so just hang with me. I'll bring us 4 things I think we can all invite into our lives. And I want to acknowledge that I am certain that many of you are already doing all or some of these. Some of you could stand up here and give this talk, and that's really great. So let's connect after the service to talk about how we sustain this work. So number 1, the first thing we can do is rest. Rest is revolutionary. Rest disrupts the grind culture and the push to exhaustion that is held as almost a sacred tenet of our culture. We can get pulled into the competition of who is the busiest. I see it move in spiritual care circles that my friends and I move in. We teach that self-care is community care, but then chaplains work long hours and ministers will serve to the point of exhaustion. I've also witnessed my husband's corporate culture as he's worked from home for these last 4 years. There's talk of work-life balance, but when there's a deadline with money on the line, you better be there. Last year, I found the teachings of the NAP ministry, Tricia Hersey, a theologian, chaplain, performance artist, activist, and a Black woman. She created this framework in 2016 with the mantra, "Rest is resistance." Rest is about unraveling capitalism and systems of oppression. Hersey says that, quote, "Rest pushes back and disrupts a system that views human bodies as a tool for production and labor. It is counter-narrative. We know that we are not machines. We are divine. We are not machines. We are divine." Close quote. So rest is revolution. While we work to center justice and compassion for the world, we need to create the resources to do this work. We rest. We evaluate where we believe that grind is part of our survival. And sometimes it's not just a belief, right? Sometimes working in a way that's over our capacity, that's sustainable, is necessary. We need to feed our family, pay the rent, care for a loved one. But it's not sustainable forever, and we are each worthy of pausing and finding a way to breathe balance into our world and into our daily lives. We need to ask for help. We need to set boundaries. Or we need to use that word that is in fact a complete sentence. No. It doesn't, and it doesn't have to happen all at once. I have a spiritual direction practice where I see clients one-on-one for spiritual care, companionship, mostly listening. And I have a client who's in a very, very busy season of life. I ask, "How is your spiritual practice this month?" And they say, "This hour with you is it." And then they tell me about what their days are like, and I hear it. There's no resting space. Their life is like the mud season. Between the frozen hard ground and the dry ground, it's hard to move. It's messy, and it's exhausting. But there is a future when things will be different for them. And after listening for almost an hour one day, not too long ago, I could hear them finding it in their own story. Maybe a half-hour bath with the bathroom door locked, is little kids in the house, is the start of claiming the rest. Or maybe a spring break that's not about doing all the fun things, but instead about sleeping in and having a pajama day with movies and reading books and rest. That's not a complete revision of their life, but it's a conscious shift and refocusing. In the words of Adrienne Marie Brown, quote, "What we give our attention to grows," close quote. This grind and overwork practice can be a place where we get stuck Because if we once had to work 70 hours a week to pay our bills so the family could survive, our bodies and our very mental pathways can decide for us that that's how we stay safe. We work 70 hours a week when maybe it's been years since it took 70 hours of work a week to keep us safe. Maybe we're focused on achievement or success as the ticket to being a worthy human being. That's just not true. No one has to earn their place on this earth. You are born whole and holy, and there is nothing that can remove that truth. Everyone is. And this leads right into the next tool, which might also seem counterintuitive, and it's self-compassion. Now, how on earth does self-compassion help us build justice within ourselves for this inside job? Because it sounds like a cop-out, or it might sound like a cop-out. And let's pause for a minute and talk about a cop-out, because the truth is that we can always step back from fostering justice and compassion in ourselves and doing the social justice work. It's not always the right time. Sometimes we need a break. It's like what our physical bodies do. Sometimes we can be injured, and if people are like me, a little older, sometimes it's bending over to pick up the dog's leash that hurts my back. But just as we can pull a muscle or tweak a joint in a workout program, we can move too fast or push too hard or just run across a bump in mental health or spiritual well-being in our justice-seeking commitments. In both situations, the physical and the spiritual, we may need to take a break, try yoga or swimming for a while. We might need a coach, or maybe we need to shift from protesting in the streets and at vigils to doing a metta meditation and offering silent prayer. In moments like this, we can turn to the Japanese idea of wabi-sabi, accepting the imperfect and accepting it with love and reverence. Our justice seeking will be imperfect, both the repair and the work in the world. This is when self-compassion keeps us from walking away from the gym or the social justice movement for good. Self-compassion is real work. And I'll share with you two kinds of self-compassion that can support us on this inside job. We need tender self-compassion for warmth and nurturing and reassurance when we are in distress. And we need fierce self-compassion that brings the power of action to protect ourselves. Educational psychology researcher and professor Kristin Neff writes, quote, "Metaphorically speaking, tender self-compassion is like a parent comforting their child, while fierce self-compassion is like a mama bear defending her cub," close quote. And Neff shares a few concrete research-based ways that self-compassion benefits our inside job of building justice within ourselves and in the community. Self-compassion benefits justice because it provides resilience for victims of injustice. She mentions a 2019 peer-reviewed study that showed for a group of Asian American students, quote, specifically at reported levels of higher social connectedness and higher self-kindness, the association between racial discrimination and depression was not significant, close quote. Neff also writes that the same was shown to be true for LGBTQ plus teens' experience of bullying at a Midwestern high school. They found that teens who were more self-compassionate were better able to cope with being bullied, threatened, or harassed, close quote. Self-compassion also benefits justice because it helps prevent burnout while working for justice. The fuel for doing the work of building justice or compassion must come from well-resourced people. As our opening words from Rebecca Parker this morning say, there must be those who call on the strength of soul force to heal, transform, and bless life all life. And finally, Neff writes, self-compassion benefits justice because it helps us deal more effectively with feelings of guilt or shame. This is especially true for those of us who, by virtue of our social location, race, gender, socioeconomic, gender identity, sexuality, those of us who, by virtue of our social location, have privilege in society. Now, this helps me tend to the ways I feel when I cause harm, to hold myself with kindness, with that tender compassion like the mama bear's embrace, so that I can then move forward to repair the harm I've done. Things like holding a Zoom class in an account where I had not enabled closed captioning, and then a person with a processing disability couldn't see the closed captioning. Or forgetting to CC an accessibility aid on an important email. Rather than beat myself up, which will cause me to become defensive, I know it will, I instead offer myself kindness, remembering that I am human and perfection is impossible. When I remember that, then I can offer a sincere apology, share the information with the accessibility aid, and go change my Zoom settings so it doesn't happen again. Self-compassion is a lifelong practice and not a lifelong perfect. It's something that morphs and moves as the seasons go by. But like a good workout routine, our self-compassion muscle memory is built with repetition and consistency. And it's built with love. So we've talked about rest and self-compassion. The third tool I have on this inside job is joy. You might have seen a meme going around on social media that talks about starting with dopamine. So if you do the thing that brings you joy first, then you have energy to go buy the cupboard for the kitchen, which then you have energy to do the power clean out of the kitchen, which then causes you to do the clean out of the bathroom. Right? But it all started with that joy, with going to buy the fish tank. And that's really real. Joy and pleasure and dance and laughter are all a part of this inside job. Adrienne Marie Brown, Black feminist activist, wrote a whole book about this called Pleasure Activism, available at your local library. So the credit for the clarity of this idea of joy and pleasure as activism and resistance is all to her. And I think we see evidence of this throughout history. My great-grandmother was an indentured servant who came from Norway to work on a farm in South Dakota against her will at age 16. She had a hard life, but throughout she continued to create beautiful needlework for no other reason than just that. It was beautiful. Art, beauty, song, dance, delicious food and drink, all of these things have resourced people across time and place so that they could be energized and keep joy present during times of tumult and crisis. Joy builds our energy just like that fish tank, and it zings through our bodies, sustaining and nurturing us. The last, and I think I have to say this, dance and singing used to be something we did in community. We didn't perform. So when we sing these hymns together, when we dance in wild abandon, in contra dancing, or I have friends who do swing dancing. It's not to perform, it's community. It's building that joy in our body. The last tool that I have to support creating justice within is, of course, as we see here today, community, relationships, connection. I'm sure some of you have heard of this study at Harvard called the Grant Study of Adult Development. It was one of the most comprehensive longitudinal studies ever done. This study started in 1938 with 268 men, and I think one of them was John F. Kennedy, and followed them for more than 75 years. It intended to study what makes a good life. In later decades, a parallel study was identified that had followed young people from the inner city of Boston, which made for a really interesting parallel comparison. What they found was that more than money or fame or genetics, the best predictor of health, financial success, and satisfaction with life was the quality of relationships. The study found that strong relationships are the greatest predictor of life satisfaction and happy lives. This proved to be true for both the Harvard and the Boston studies. As far as the flip side of the power of relationship is the detriment of loneliness. The Centers for Disease Control says that loneliness and social isolation are linked to the serious health conditions of dementia, heart disease, stroke, depression, and sadly, premature death. So being here today is good for you. It's good for you, mind, body, and soul. And it feeds you for the work of justice, the work of life. What nurtures us, what resources us are such human things. They're good for our lives. They're good for work and justice. They're good for just living a good life. The resistance is our very humanity, our unity, taking good care of ourselves and those dear to us. So friends, this morning we've explored rest, self-compassion, joy, and community. This is a spiritual practice, tending these things. A spiritual practice, not a spiritual perfect. Practice, repetition, consistency, building our justice muscle. This work for justice, equity, and compassion happens the most effectively when we begin deep within. We can't transform ourselves or our society with our minds alone. It happens with our hearts, and even more effectively with our souls. What was the sign? Spirit. It happens more effectively with our spirit. May it be so for all of us, holy, divine beings. May it be so, and so it is.
Thank you, Carrie, very much for those thoughtful words. Let's hold a moment of contemplation and worship, which worship is an Old English word that means to consider things of worth in a generous and abundant silence. And after this moment of silence, I'd like to invite Leslie to play a piece for us to enjoy as we reflect deeper on Rev. Carey's message. Thank you, Leslie. We're going to now pause the recording as we prepare for joys and concerns. And if you like to, you can remain sitting. If you'd like to sing "There Is a Love," we'll sing it through twice. It's in your inside cover of your hymnal if you don't know the words. There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love. We'll now resume the recording, please, Spencer. And as members and friends of VIEW, Vashon Island Unitarian Universalists, we commit to supporting this congregation. And financial resources help us pay for speakers and staff and support our social justice programs and maintain our building. Please support VIEW with your pledges and offerings so that we can continue to be a vital community. Our congregation engages beyond our walls for peace, social and economic justice, freedom of belief, and protection of our planet and its inhabitants. Once a month, we contribute our financial offering to a regional, national, or international organization, nonprofit that aligns with our values. This week's offering supports VIEW and our beloved community here. I invite our greeters or anyone in number 3 group to now pass around the offering baskets. And as we receive our offering, we'll sing "We Give Thanks" through a couple times. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all the other near and those far away, for the time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. For all gathered here and those far away, for the time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. And Rev Carey, please come up for our closing reading. Our closing prayer. Closing reading.
It's time to close. Oh, joy, 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 connection. Let us take a moment and hold in this energy of this beloved community that goes out and out and out and encompasses all of the universe, all of the people, the whales, the beings, the beautiful trees, held in that beloved space and energy. Let us remember beloved stepmother, honor activist Alexei Navalny. Let us hold in love a daughter, a beloved daughter caregiver who is going to take care of herself. Let us remember the troubles in the world in Gaza. Let us remember singing of Spirit of Life with abandon. Let it be a tale that connects us all. Now our closing reading today is a closing song, because we can't just do things, by the book. We didn't even pass out the book, so we're not going to do things by the book. Now I have a back of the canoe singing voice, and what that means is that it doesn't matter what kind of a singing voice you have. I'm going to invite you to sing out, and remember, it's practice, not perfect. So this is a beautiful song by a young Jewish activist and singer-songwriter named Ali Halpert. And I invite you to go home and look her up on YouTube, because she is amazing. And I'll sing it a lot of times, so you'll have room to learn and sing. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Sing it loud. Loosen, loosen, baby. And hold and carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let ease this. One more time. Loosen, loosen, baby. And you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Let go, let go. And now we'll extinguish our chalice. Thanks for sitting.
May We Go Forth by Reverend Tess Bomberger. May we go forth to meet oppression with freeing justice, hatred with healing love, and despair with unfailing faith. May it be so. Amen.
Our formal service is now over, but we would like to thank Reverend Carrie Kovnick. Thank you very much for your words. And Leslie McMichael, thank you very much for your beautiful, beautiful harp playing. The magic you bring is so appreciated. Thank you, Spencer Prophet, for being our tech Guru back there, and all the people. And thank you, Jim Packwood, for being our opening and closing reader. Thank you, setup group number 3, very much, and all the people who brought the flowers and the food. Thank you. And all of you for participating today in the service. We have a moment that we would like to tell you announcements. So, for VIEW announcements, if anyone has an announcement related to VIEW or Vashon Island Unitarian Universalists, please come on up, tell us your name, and tell us your announcements.